Welcome to the UK Travel Planning Podcast. Your host is the founder of the UK Travel Planning website, Tracy Collins. In this podcast, Tracy shares destination guides, travel tips, and itinerary ideas, as well as interviews with a variety of guests who share their knowledge and experience of UK travel to help you plan your perfect UK vacation. Join us as we explore the UK from cosmopolitan cities to quaint villages, from historic castles to beautiful islands, and from the picturesque countryside to seaside towns.
Hi and welcome to the UK Travel Planning Podcast. This week I chat with Victoria of Cotswold Teacup Tours. As you will hear, this was a really fun episode to record and I thoroughly enjoyed chatting to Victoria. Victoria has lived in the Cotswolds her whole life and in this podcast shares lots of great info, including some of her favourite places to visit in this beautiful area of England. So if you are considering a visit to the Cotswolds, don't miss this episode. Discover some hidden gems plus Victoria's tips for those visiting for the first time. Also learn about Victoria's bespoke private tours and how she tailor makes each tour based on the needs and interests of her guests. The perfect way to experience and explore the Cotswolds. So without further ado, let's introduce Victoria. I'm so excited today to have Victoria from Cotswold Teacup Tours on the podcast. And I know many people in my UK and London Travel Planning Facebook group are also really excited to hear from you, Victoria. So I will start by just asking you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself, really.
Oh, thank you, Tracy. I'm very excited to be here. So I am a born and bred Cotswold girl. I have lived here in the Cotswolds all my life, and I've moved around in different areas, but it is a unique area of England, and it's beautiful. And I have my family here, and it's a great area to live. And so I have not always been a tour guide. This was my new business. I've been set up for a year now. I used to work for Oxford University, and I would organise events and conferences. And once the conference guests had finished all their boring lectures, I would, in my personal opinion, I would organise their sort of fun activities for afterwards. And it was kind of this that led me to wanting to start showing people the area, Oxford and the Cotswolds, and show them some of the highlights of the area and some of the places that are off the beaten track.
It's such a lovely part of the country, isn't it? And, it appeals to, visitors to the UK and even people who live in the UK absolutely love going to the Cotswolds, don't they? I have to ask you, because I love the name Teacup Tours. How did you come up with that name?
Well, so I am a big tea drinker. I don't get out of bed unless I've had a whole pot of tea each day.
So, you know what? Yeah, that sounds like me too. Honestly, I'm a total Assam bold. I love it. I could be have it intravenously. I swear, I'm just absolutely love tea.
I know, it's like the ultimate English stereotype, but there are stereotypes for a reason.
We sound so English, don't we?
I know. Even better with scone and jams later, but no. So teacup and tea is has a happy connection, and it's memorable too. People tell me, somebody recommended you to me, and I knew it was Cotswold Tours, and then I remembered about the teacup. So it kind of sticks in people's memories. It's a happy connection. And we do quite a lot of tea and coffee drinking on the tours.
Oh, that sounds good. Do you do cream tea?
Oh, I try and fit one of those in. We always do a pub lunch, so it depends how much lunch we've eaten. If there's cream tea as well. This is a big, serious conversation we have to have at the beginning of a tour.
Absolutely. Can you fit all of that in? So obviously you started the tour company about 12 months ago, you said. So you've had your first year with taking tours around the Cotswolds. So what sort of tours do you offer? What sort of things are people asking for?
Well, so first of all, I'll say that every single tour I do is different from the next. all my tours, they're all unique. They're tailor-made. And so sometimes if I'm picking up guests from a hotel and they haven't booked with me directly, the hotel has recommended me. When I meet them, I find out what they're interested in. And if they say, they particularly want to go to see old buildings or churches and they're not interested in shopping at all, then, I'll just design the tour for them around that, around the places I know really well in the area, which are going to appeal to them. And sometimes, halfway through the day, I'll get an inkling. I'll sort of see that maybe the lady in the group is a little bit more interested in the shopping aspect than her husband is.
Yeah. That sounds like me and Doug.
And so sometimes we might sort of work in the odd, a very beautiful location where there might be something historic, and then there might be a really nice gift shop too. so it's something for everybody,
That sounds really good. Is there kind of a kind of typical tour or typical places that people always ask for?
Yeah, I suppose places like Stow on the Wold is one of my, I almost go there every tour actually because I love Stow on the Wold. It's my favourite town in the Cotswolds. It does get a bit busy with tourists in summertime, but it's a locals town. There's local people popping in and out of the post office, running their errands, popping into the pharmacy. But it's a good mixture of some really nice pubs for lunch and great places to stay, great accommodation in Stow. And then, you've got your butchers and your cheesemakers and your cheese shop and the chocolate shop.
I didn't discover that when I was here this year.
Oh, did you?
No, I was there, but I didn't discover the chocolate shop. I'll definitely
Tracy, next time.
Definitely. I guess everybody wants to have their photo taken at the church door.
Or the church, the doors, the Mordor.
Yes,
Tolkien's supposed. He was supposedly inspired by those doors, wasn't he? When he wrote Lord of the Rings.
And they are lovely, I have to say. I mean, we were there in June, and actually when we first got there was just me and Doug there, so we were taking loads of pictures, loads of videos and things, and then all of a sudden there seemed to be a few more people turn up and a few more, so you had to kind of move on. But it wasn't actually that, as busy as you would have expected it to be, honestly. It wasn't crowded or anything. Bearing in mind it's one of those places that everybody kind of wants to have their photo taken at.
I never see it that busy there. No.
That's good. So, what other towns and villages crop up? Do people know when they kind of come to the Cotswolds? Do you think that they have kind of an idea of what they definitely want to see, or do you think sometimes it's not kind of a realistic picture of the Cotswolds? Because we often get asked by people if it's like there's an assumption that it's quite a small area, and of course it isn't, is it?
No, it's huge. It takes 2 hours to drive roughly from east to west and 4 hours to drive from north to south. I think it's nearly 800 miles, the Cotswolds. Yeah. It's a big area. So it's too big to try and cover in a day. So that's sort of the first thing sometimes my guests will, they want to do, they'll meet me and they'll have a list of places they want to go and see. And so, I obviously always try and help them see as much as possible, but I also try to stay out of the car as much as possible. We want to kind of explore on foot, when people are well enough to do so, then we'll go and explore places on foot, and we'll try and keep it minimal time in the car as possible.
Yeah.
I answered your question.
Yeah, it does. And I think that's it's really important to kind of, I think, get that across, because I think you could spend your whole day going from A to B across the Cotswolds and actually missing out lots of the beautiful things that you can do and see along the way. I mean, I think we were there for 3 or 4 days this last summer, and we literally just spent our time in the Northern Cotswolds, really.
Yes.
We went to Byberry and the Slaughters and Bourton on the Water and Stow on the Wold, of course, and Chipping Camden and lots of, and the Lavender Farm, which was lovely. I'd been there before. That was really nice.
Nice.
So obviously you can also make tours really bespoke. So if somebody contacts you and they have a specific interest, or perhaps they're traveling with children and they want you to kind of tailor make it that it's interesting for the kids. Now, I know you just recently did a tour with a couple of kids that you kind of really made it interesting. I love the pictures on Instagram. So do you want to talk a little bit about that when kind of people contact you and sort of say, we're traveling with children or we're traveling with older people, say, how would you kind of adapt that and tailor make it for them?
Yes. Well, yes. So I had a family group recently. They had three girls with them, 7, 9 and 12, the children were. And I thought, I don't want them to be bored by villages. I've got children, so I know what it's like. And I arranged with them in advance for them to go to Bourton-on-the-Water Equestrian Centre. And so they had a horse riding tour. Oh. I walked along behind because it was so much fun going with them, and I wanted to see the route they take. And so they all got given a horse, a size appropriate, and were led off through the slaughter villages. The slaughter villages are exceptionally pretty, aren't they, Tracy? They're just so gorgeous.
They are.
And it was stunning. And it was this was September, so the weather was lovely, and you passed a few little sheep in the field, and just seeing the scenery. It was stunning. So the children were really happy. And then, but then we mix it up a bit and take them to kind of somewhere not somewhere sort of stuffy, boring pub. I try and take them somewhere a little bit more lively, which has a child-friendly menu. And then we always, have to go past the ice cream in the fudge shop.
Absolutely.
That helps. Meanwhile, I want mum and dad to see as much as possible, have a really nice experience. And then I want the children to be happy, because you're only as happy as your unhappiest child. So,
absolutely. I mean, I've only got one, but I remember traveling with her, and yes, you have to always keep that's it.
Yeah.
Make sure that she's happy, and then it would be a good day out. Yeah,
that's right. And there's another place, actually, Cotswold Farm Park, where they have lots of rare breeds of little farm animals, and they've always got little piglets and lambs, and you can feed the lambs the milk in the springtime, and that was great. I loved it, and and a couple of children I was with, they loved it too, and Mum loved it, and it was lovely. It's great. You're outdoors in the English countryside, so a bit of that mixed in with some history and a bit of culture, going out to other towns and pop into a little church, if that's what's wanted. That's, mix it up a bit.
Oh, it's lovely, but it's a really kind of immersive experience being able to go out and kind of explore all of that with you. Especially, I always think there's something special about visiting a place with somebody, but that you're a local to that, so you know all of the the best places to go, and those kind of, I hate the word, but I always say that kind of those hidden gems that not everybody's going to know about, because you only get that kind of knowledge by actually living in a place, and exploring it and knowing it really well. And I guess that would be like talking about the advantages of taking a private driver tour with you, Victoria. Obviously, it's part of that is that you have all that insider knowledge.
Yeah, it is. It's great because I've spent a lot of time. Well, I mean, I live here anyway, but I know the places. But also, I love building relationships with all the local businesses. Lots of people know me now, and they say, "Oh, Victoria, we haven't seen you for a while." I pop in and say, "Well, I've brought some people to see your chocolate shop today, and what's he making in the back?" And so I've built a rapport with lots of business owners and pub owners, and so they know me, and I know that they'll look after my guests for me when we go in, and so it's I think it's so like if I travel abroad somewhere I don't know, I love it when if I'm with a guide, they know local people and they have a conversation. And sometimes it's that whole like meeting one of the locals up at the pub bar and having a chat, and it's that connection with a place. It makes you feel less of a tourist and more like a local.
Absolutely, and that's so special being able to be able to do that. That you can kind of allow people, or kind of be that kind of, I don't know how to put it, kind of that catalyst conduit between kind of the local people and visitors. And, as you say, it's very easy. It's actually very easy to be a tourist in the Cotswolds, but actually to step that little bit further and actually have that experience of being able to meet people, like the butcher or the baker or, the people making the chocolate and the chocolate shop, and being able to have those conversations. And that's something that you won't get on a kind of quick in and out tour. It's the fact that, you're able to kind of, be the catalyst between the visitor and the locals. And so I've got to actually what sort of questions do you get asked by visitors to the Cotswolds? Because it's such a quaint part of England. And I think even for Brits, when we visit it, we kind of go, oh, it is so perfect because I'm from Northumberland, which is also very perfect. I have
beautiful.
To just
yes, it is.
But when I was in the Cotswolds this summer, I just was going from one village to the next going, there can't be, and I think I mentioned it in a previous podcast, actually, I kind of go, they can't get, any more prettier, these cottages. They cannot be any more perfect. The gardens can't be any more stunningly, and then you'd go to the next village or driving along the next bit of road and you'd be like, another gorgeous thatched cottage with roses around the door. It really is that kind of quintessential English that a lot of visitors to the UK are after.
Yeah.
So kind of, what sort of things do you get asked? I'm kind of being nosy, but it'd be interesting to see what do people want to know?
Well, as you say, because it is so, it's so beautiful. People say, who lives here? How do people work and live here? Because it all feels, it's funny because a lot of times people say, it's like a Disney set. I say, hang on, I think it's the other way around. I think we were here first. But
yes,
this is silly. But so then I explain, well, the locals, the local people will be, there are a lot of second homes in the Cotswolds. You might have like wealthy Londoners who have a second place out in the Cotswolds, or holiday cottages. But there's a lot of families living out here too. And there's, in almost every village, there's a village school, primary school for the younger children. Yeah. And so there's definitely, very tight community of people who, they love living there and they look after their homes and they look after their gardens. And it's really hard sometimes to choose where to take people. I think that's one of my biggest challenges, is because it is village after village of just beauty. But I like to take people away from the tourist traps as well. So I'm a bit of a Bourton on the Water snob. I love Bourton on the Water, but I'll only go there first thing in the morning. So I try and arrange the tour to be a pickup about 9:00, and then we get to Bourton on the Water for early coffee.
I think that's good because we've stayed there a couple of times, and it's really controversial. But Bourton on the Water comes up all the time, and it's like, oh, don't stay. And we probably won't stay in Bourton on the Water next time. But what we did is exactly what you're saying. Is actually we would get up, have a little bit of time in the village, and then go out of the village, and then spend the day touring, and then come back later on in the day.
Great, yeah, nice.
Because there's just something about sitting beside the river. Now I should know the name of it. Windrush, yes, through Bourton, and it just sitting there in the evening in the summer by that river when it is lovely. But yeah, no, I get that. So yeah, so Bourton on the Water you do early in the morning, have your cup of tea, cup of coffee, or whatever. Yeah, and then what do you do? Where would you go?
Well, so that might depend. So it depends. So if my guests tell me, actually, we really like to see something very Cotswold. It's unique. You won't find it anywhere else. And they are keen to take a few things home. We might go on over to a beautiful place called Cotswold Woolen Weavers.
Okay.
And this is the only, as far as I'm aware, this is one of the only remaining businesses in the Cotswolds that sells Cotswold made. They make their own Cotswold blankets. So, the history of the Cotswolds is all about the sheep, the Cotswold lion, and its amazing wool and the wool trade.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of that pretty much all of it has died now and been replaced with other things. But this company still exists, and they're based on an old farm. And the buildings themselves are so interesting because it's a wonderful old stone barn, limestone, traditional Cotswold buildings. And they have a beautiful little tea room, and the shop is amazing. And, and there's socks and little hats, beautiful clothes made with the fine cloths that they make there themselves, and blankets, which you might not want if you come from a hot place, but
it does still get cold in Queensland.
Oh, you're not ruling it out, Tracy? No, okay.
No, I'm not. But, do you actually get to see them being made? Is there like a factory, not factory, but you know what I mean, like a part to it where they're making the things?
Well, so they have. So they used to make them there up until about 10 years ago, but they've kept that. Some of the older looms are still there on site, but they've moved the looms to another site in the Cotswolds. I think it needed to get bigger because it was housed in this big old tithe barn. So, but I mean, it's fantastic, and that's the real deal. Those are locally made. So sometimes when we are touring, and my guests might pick up an item, and they're off to buy it, and I sort of just check and see, just check where it's made. just make sure it's not from the other side of the world.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure it's from the Cotswolds, actually made here. Absolutely.
Maybe, I don't know. Just saying.
So obviously you've got you do that, and then we're talking about kind of the bespoke. You obviously do everything kind of tailor made to people's interests.
Yeah,
and you have that kind of knowledge about going somewhere like that, which is really good. But I guess you and obviously that sounds like one of your favorite places to go. But if we were going to talk about some of your, I'll put you on the spot a bit with this, and because it's really hard, isn't it, the Cotswolds to actually choose? Because you know what, and I think if somebody asked me this question tomorrow, I'd probably say something different to what I'd say right now. But if I was to ask you, which I am, what would be your favorite places to visit? What would be your favorite places to visit on tour? Because they might be different to places you want to visit if you're going on your own. But what were your favorite places in the Cotswolds to share with people who come to experience the Cotswolds? So
one of my personal favorite things is to be kind of away from groups of people. I like it quiet countryside where you can hear the bird song and you get some peace, because life is just crazy busy, isn't it, for everybody these days? And how often do you get a bit of peace and just time out? And so I have got a couple of gems, and one of them is a place called Rousham. That's Ruosham, Rousham House and Gardens. And the house is about 500 years old, I think. But and that's actually lived in by the descendants of the family who built it originally. So that's not accessible to the public. But the gardens are stunning, and they open all year round. And they don't let children in. Okay. I should stop laughing about that, but it makes me, because they have this little kind of old-fashioned sign out saying their opening times, and it says no children under 15.
Oh dear.
But and they have no gift shop or coffee shop. But this is what makes it special. It's because you can go there and there will be no one else there, just no one, in these beautiful gardens surrounded by these fruit trees and water and rivers and fountains. And I took a lovely couple. It was their wedding anniversary, and they'd had to postpone it because of the pandemic. So it's wedding anniversary plus 2 years. And so I just snuck in a bottle of bubbly for them too, and I knew the perfect spot where they could sit and have this little romantic drink with the glasses and things, and so I prize for them, and it was it was beautiful, and I obviously left them to it for a bit to enjoy them. It was gorgeous, no one else there, and then I have favourite pubs as well. And there's a beautiful village called Ebrington. I believe that the locals pronounce it Yarraton.
Right.
Yarraton. I think I got that. And there's this, but it's an amazing pub called the Ebrington Arms. It's a great pub, great food. And the village itself. In fact, I'm not sure I want to tell you all this, Tracy, and the listeners, because it's really special.
Well, you know what? In this episode, you can share some of these kind of special places. And I know you're going to come on the podcast. We're going to have some more episodes to talk about the Cotswolds in the different seasons. And I think that each season deserves its own episode. And I know we're going to talk about, have an episode to talk about, I would really like to do an episode just to talk about the gardens, because I'm going to go into that in a second. And also I want to have a whole episode to talk about all the various shops, because I know you have, and I can hear lots of, I just can hear ears pricking up now at this point of the podcast. So I've got shops in Cotswold. And I know you're doing a new tour at the moment, aren't you? Is that luxury shopping in the Cotswolds?
Cotswold shopping tour. Yeah. Oh, we have some very beautiful boutiques, and what are they called now? Creative design inspiration outlets or something. They don't get called shops anymore.
Well, I definitely needed to go and explore some of these design outlets in the Cotswolds, because I can imagine there's going to be some really rather nice clothes and accessories. And do you get homewares as well, or is it mainly kind of clothes and gifts?
There's a good range. Again, it depends. It depends on what you're interested in, what the shopper wants. But we have, lots of art and antiques, and then there's lots of lovely things for the home, and small things too, because I know a lot of people don't have the luggage space to take back a massive painting or something. Although lots of places will ship them.
I was going to say, a lot of people, from my experience, a lot of people just ship things back, or do what I did and pay an extra $700 for another suitcase to get sent back to Australia at the end of 3 months. I mean, there's always ways around. If you really want that thing, you're going to get it back. That's for sure. And like, if you're going to go on a luxury shopping tour of the Cotswolds, you're going to spend a bit. You're going to buy a few things. And again, what I really like about that, and it's exactly this that we were talking about that before we actually started the podcast, is about this supporting local businesses and the importance of supporting local enterprises and local businesses. And this is the perfect way to do it.
Yes, it is. And as far as I'm aware, I don't believe anybody else in the Cotswolds is doing this. I think this is the one and only Cotswold shopping tour.
And that's what I was going to say. If people want to know about all these kind of fantastic pubs and restaurants and hidden gems and all this stuff, they have to book a tour, really, basically.
That would be nice, and I'd love to meet them and show them.
Absolutely. So I want to rewind a little bit, because I was in the Cotswolds this year in June, as I kind of mentioned, and the weather was fantastic. We were very lucky; it was beautiful weather. There's another advantage about going out with you as well, is if you're not used to driving on the left, you get driven around by you. So you pick people up from the hotel or from train stations and then drive them around.
That's right.
So do you know all the best places to park? I have to ask you that.
Yeah, I'm getting good at that now, actually. I sometimes, if it's tricky, I will drop my guests off and I'll say it. You walk in that direction and I will come and catch you up, because I don't want them to waste their time while I find a parking place. But it always works out, but there's no problem.
Well, the thing is as well, like, you get to sit back in the car and enjoy the scenery while you're doing the driving, rather than, sitting.
Yeah, exactly. It takes all the hassle out of worrying about where you're going to park. You're right. And driving on the roads, and because there are some country lanes where lots of country lanes where it is just single lane.
Yes.
And so, which is always fun, because my guests always sort of gasp when they see another car coming towards me, and it's fine, because there's passing spaces. Sometimes there's grass growing up the middle of the road. which is also quite alarming.
I've got quite a lot of video from this summer, kind of driving around. Doug was doing the driving, and I'll take the videos of these little country roads. Same in Scotland. We did the North Coast 500, and obviously there again, narrow little roads and lots of sheep and cattle and all sorts of things on the roads. So you have to be careful. But I know it's a bit of a stress for some people that they don't want to actually have the, so if somebody was in London and wanted to do a tour with you, obviously they can, or if they're staying in Oxford, for example, or staying in London, how would they get to join you for a tour, Victoria?
Oh, right. Okay. There's a number of ways. So often from Oxford, I will come and pick people up from their hotel, make it really nice and easy for them. Ideally, if they're coming from London, then I recommend they come to Hanborough Station, which is very easy for me to come and pick people up. And that's an hour and 10 minutes from London. And if people, want to ask me about that, they can just contact me directly and I'll give them all the information they need about getting to the train station. Or sometimes they go from London to Morton-in-Marsh Station, right in the centre of the Cotswolds. And I can pick them up from there. So, we sort of work it out. It depends if they're in a hotel in the Cotswolds. As long as they're not too far away, then I usually just go and pick people up and make it nice and easy. But it should be. It's their holiday. It's nice. It should be a nice, relaxing day for them.
Absolutely. And drop them back off at the end of the day.
Oh, yeah, no, I do that. I don't leave them in the middle of.
I leave them in a beautiful village. To be honest, sometimes I think because I really like Bibury. Obviously, I mean, who doesn't like Bibury, honestly, and Arlington Row. And I'll never forget the first time I saw Arlington Row. And I was kind of like, again, I sound like but I suppose even though I'm British, I'm a tourist, but kind of like, do people live in Arlington Row? And of course, yes, they do. And I was astounded by the fact that people are living in these houses that were built in, I think it was the 1300s. I know it's a long, long time ago that those houses were built. And it was just gobsmacked, I guess, in terms of like, wow, it's so amazing. These places are it's history, living history, isn't it? You get that total feeling for that old English way of life, and the little cottages, and having to stoop your head as you walk through the door because the ceiling, the low threshold at the door and all that sort of thing.
That's right. I like going to Bibury because, again, that is a place that gets busy and you've got to time it right. If you go in the middle of the day, prepare to be surrounded with big coach groups. However, I have done my research and I like to take people, we go to Bibury, but I take them around the back lanes of Bibury as well. So very quickly you lose all those groups, all those big groups of people. And it just becomes us. And we go and explore around the backs of all those little houses and peep into their gardens. You don't, I shouldn't say that, but we do. And, we're very discreet. And
we went at 7:00 in the evening in the summer, and there was nobody there. There was like me. There was like us and two other cars. It was so. Gorgeous. I have these gorgeous video. It was a beautiful. I actually put quite a bit on Instagram recently on Reels because I took some the idyllic river and the beautiful pink flowers and the cottages in the background. You couldn't have got a better shot, really. It was so nice. I took all these videos and all the photos, but there was just nobody there. It was, and that was June.
Oh, that's lovely. Yeah, great. And in the evening, perfect time. And then go and have a drink in the pub.
Yeah, and that was going to say that's the advantage if you can. And I do try to encourage people to not just go to the Cotswolds for a day. Go there for longer. Depending on your itinerary. Really, if you want to experience it, you need to go for a couple of days. That would be what I would recommend. And that would be that's a good way to do it. To book a couple of days with you, Victoria, and a nice hotel. And really immerse themselves in the Cotswolds.
Yeah, it's because it's supposed to be relaxing. Like it's the countryside. It should be relaxing and it should be enjoyable and it should be somewhere where you've got time to stop, enjoy a lovely lunch, or have a glass of wine in the evening, and not feel like you're clock watching, got to get that train back to London, back to the chaos and mayhem of that one.
Yeah.
But But and also sometimes I plan a kind of a North Cotswolds and then a sort of West and Central Cotswold days, because I break them up into days really to try and cover each area.
Yeah, and that's a really good way of doing it as well, because then, like I said before, you're not driving the whole time, you're seeing exactly making the most of it. I will rewind because I have to talk about gardens, but we're definitely going to have a whole episode talking about the gardens. So I was really lucky, or we were really lucky this summer, that we went to Kiftsgate Gardens, and the other one has just gone out of my head. The one near Kiftsgate. Hidcote. Why did I lose that? So I went to Hidcote and then walked across to Kiftsgate Gardens, and there is no words that I can use to describe either of those places.
I know.
And people listening to this are going to go, well, I don't know. Seriously, if you listen to this podcast, listen to me and Victoria talking about these places, I cannot recommend enough that these are places, if you want to experience England, go in the UK, this is where you need to go and see if you're in summer. I mean, I guess we could talk about other seasons, but when those gardens are at their best, to really experience the beauty of an English country garden.
Oh, and Hidcote. So when I drive to Hidcote, I always get quite excited if we're going there, actually, because you can't go there too many times. It's different every time. This beautiful garden, and it's huge as well. And you can explore as much or as little as you want. And sometimes when we get to Hidcote, you see, I breathe a sigh of relief and think, I'm in my happy place, really relaxed here. Mm-hmm. And what I always like to do is, I'll give a little bit of background to my guests about the place on the way. And then when we get there, I go and buy everybody a coffee or whatever drink they want. Yeah. And then because that's on me, that's my treat. And then we go off exploring. And sometimes I think people might just like to explore it and discover it all on their own. And sometimes I think maybe they'd like me to go with them. So just make sure that they see everything. And it depends. Yeah. See how people feel. And it's just the most stunning gardens.
Yeah.
Both of them are. I mean, Hidcote, I just love it. But Kiftsgate, they're absolutely exquisite gardens. And I remember once I was at Kiftsgate and a lady was there, and her phone rang, and she picked up the phone, and clearly somebody had said, "Where are you?" And she just said, "I'm in heaven." Yeah. It is that, and I laughed and thought, "That's lovely," and she's right. This is beautiful gardens.
It is absolutely beautiful, and yes, I think, and of course, there are other gardens to explore in the Cotswolds as well. So we're going to have to talk about those, I think, and we'll have a whole episode talking about the gardens. I think we should. I think that would be great. So we're talking about, people spending a couple of days in the Cotswolds, which we highly recommend that you do. Where would you, if you were kind of saying, where would you say is the best place to use as a base?
I think, so I know some people will get the train from London to Moreton in Marsh, which is it's a pretty Cotswold town. It's quite busy. I mean, it's easy to get there, but it's quite a busy town because of the main road that runs right through the centre of Moreton in Marsh. But so if that bothered you, so you could stay there, number one. Or number two, there's a great little village bus network in the Cotswolds, and you can catch the bus from Moreton in Marsh to Stow-on-the-Wold and stay in Stow. And I think Stow's a great place. I always recommend it because there's so much choice, there's variety of places to eat. There's some particularly good restaurants which you need to book months in advance. And then there's great, everyday pubs and places too. It's safe. If I was a single lady travelling on my own, I would choose Stow because it's very safe to walk about in the evening. It's, there's no problem. People are friendly. You go in and have a chat with people and they'll want to know who you are, where you're from and how long you're staying. It's a really nice place. You've got to talk to people.
Yeah, no, it's lovely. And like I say, you can get you can get the bus, or you can get it. It's not too far from Moreton and Marsh to Stow, so you can.
No, exactly.
Yeah, or just call it. Yeah, well, yes, we'll book you and it'll be all sorted. That'd be great. So I think we're going to wrap up this episode of the podcast, but I am just going to tell the listeners that Victoria is going to be on more podcasts. So don't worry. She also is a member of our UK and London travel planning Facebook community as well. So if you have some questions from Victoria, obviously we'll put a link to her website and her tours so you can book those. Those will all be in the show notes. But actually, if you want to ask something to Victoria directly, she's actually in our private Facebook group. And also, I'm hoping at some point, Victoria and I are going to do a live session in the Facebook group as well, so we can kind of go live and answer your questions. That's something that I've just sprung on Victoria.
I think that's a great idea. I'd love to do that, Tracy. Yeah,
I think that would be really good fun. And it's just getting the time zone right. That's going to be the only challenge, but we'll get there. We can sort that out. And I know that would be a lot of fun, and people would love to have that opportunity to chat to us about that. But I'm going to end this episode with the question that I ask everybody that comes on the podcast, which is the one tip you'd give anyone planning to visit, we're going to say the Cotswolds this time, normally it would be the UK, but visit the Cotswolds for the first time.
I would say if you're a foodie and you want to eat in nice places, always pre-book your dinner reservations so you won't be disappointed. Don't leave it to the last minute at the moment. It's still quite difficult here turning up at restaurants unless you've got a booking.
That's a great tip. I've actually just sent an email out to everybody tonight, actually talking about people who are planning their trip in 2023 to already start thinking about booking accommodation, booking car hire, and booking tours and certain things like, certain train travel. Like if they want to do Jacobite or they want to do certain events, they need to start thinking about booking that. And restaurants is absolutely something. Once you know where you're going, you need to look at those restaurants and get those bookings in, because I know we went to Skye this year, and trying to get into a restaurant in Skye was just about impossible in May. So we kind of learned that one the hard way. Is like, you need to make, if you want to eat somewhere good, you need to make a booking.
Yeah. So
that's a great one. So thanks so much, Victoria, for coming on the podcast. It's been brilliant to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you, Trish. Loved it.
No, it's brilliant. And I say we'll hear from you again soon.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks again to Victoria for sharing her considerable knowledge about the Cotswolds with us today. As always, links to everything we chatted about, including Victoria's website and Instagram, plus the UK Travel Planning Facebook community, will be included in the show notes on our website at uktravelplanning.com/episode 20. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review so you don't miss an episode, like Gilmore93 from the United States, who left us a 5-star review saying, "This podcast has been extremely helpful in planning my upcoming visit to the UK. Many good tips and recommendations and a fun listen." Thanks so much for your review, Gilmore93. It was much appreciated. In next week's episode, Doug and I share our top 10 favourite travel experiences for 2022. But until then, I will have to say, happy UK travel planning.